Good afternoon.
Hello.
Is everyone adequately caffeinated or otherwise chemically stimulated?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I could use more caffeine.
Go get some more caffeine. Oh, wait.
We're out of coffee.
We're out of coffee?
Yeah, exactly.
What heresy is this? Okay, so, well, that's a planning fail that needs to be brought up with the management. So, we've got this lovely little talk that I had some back and forth discussions with myself that involved pacing back and forth in front of a whiteboard and generally, lots of indecisiveness what I was going to call this. We had a couple of revisions of this slide, so, that was one of the options. Or that was also an option. But ultimately, I hate PowerPoint, and, so that's going to be most of the slide deck, just to let you know. Hi, my name is Bobby Kuzma, and for my sins, I am the Director of Pen Testing Strategy for SecureAuth and CorSecurity, the artist formerly known as CorSecurity, and at the end of the month, who the hell knows what our benign equity capital overlords are going to have us being called. I've been doing IT and InfoSec since more or less elementary school, strangely enough. And I've not really had much of a clue what the hell I was doing most of that time. But people keep wanting me to do it, and for some reason I keep being vaguely successful at it, so they keep giving me money to do it, and I keep doing it. And I'm kind of confused, and you're probably wondering why that's going on. So we've got this lovely thing. I really, really, really don't get why people trust me to get things done and to be successful in these projects, yet I keep being successful at them. And that whole disconnect is something that a lot of people in the security field get. It's impostor syndrome. And it's something that we, as an industry, get to deal with a lot, and it's really explored. People don't talk about it. You sit in the corner, you do your job, you sit in the SOC, or you do your junior forensic porn monkey work, or you pen test or whatever, and you stay in your lane, and you wonder, I'm okay at this, and people think that you're great. You get great reviews from your coworkers and your management, and they use terms like miracle worker. They compare you to Montgomery frickin' Scott, and you're like, okay, but I have to use Google like 17 times an hour. Like, I feel like I should know all of these things. Do doctors use Google 17 times an hour? The answer is yes, or they just make it up as they go along, and that's how we end up with, medicine. So, I'm going to kind of tell you a story and kind of walk through how I got from that starting point up to where I'm at today, and how I've dealt with some of this to end up with far less adult supervision than I probably should have, to be perfectly honest. So when I was little, my dad worked for IBM, that company in upstate New York that made those really big computers that people spent lots of money on and no one ever got fired for. So he didn't work in the part of the company that actually worked on big computers. He did the printer stuff. But his big customers in sunny Lakeland, Florida, were Publix, which is a huge regional supermarket chain, Watkins Motor Lines, which, again, was a very large, less-than-load trucking company that FedEx ate and became FedEx LTL, and a bunch of smaller folks. And back then, asset control kind of sucked, and a lot of things that got upgraded ended up in a dumpster. More precisely, they were aimed at the dumpster and ended up in the back of my dad's truck. So, I got all kinds of cool stuff that found its way home from the data center. So, a lot of people, they cut their teeth on, depending on your age, it might have been a Trash 80 or an Apple II or some kind of early AS400 or something along those lines. And I didn't know that this was abnormal. My dad was a ham radio operator. He was one of those lunatics who used to build the Heathkit rigs. Made me get my ham license when I was 8. KE4JUR. Didn't know that was abnormal. Also didn't know it was abnormal to talk to astronauts on the Russian space station and the King of Jordan in the same weekend on the radio. These abnormal experiences were kind of the thing. Didn't know it was abnormal to start getting pulled out of classes in the 3rd grade to fix computer problems. You can troubleshoot a modem really, really well if you know that. Verify that it's actually turned on.
Common sense.
Yeah. It turns out that common sense stuff's not that common. and who here's familiar with the OSI model for networking? Okay. The physical layer, right? Layer 1, physical layer, the actual connected bits. There should be a layer 0. Does it have power?
Doesn't exist.
Is it turned on? Is it plugged in? 2 things. This isn't why am I getting singled out to do these things? Why? Okay, and that just no one explained any of this. I was getting bored all the time. I was one of those students. The ones that if you leave them unattended or without extra work, they would end up, improvising incendiary devices out of stuff in the custodial closet if you left them unattended. That kind of student, God forbid. If I'd gone to school, today, I probably would be on CNN and not in a good way, or heavily medicated. But this stuff was useful in that it kept me occupied, but it was also not so good because it reinforced okay, so I don't have any formal understanding of what it is I'm doing. I'm just I know that I'm achieving a goal here. I'm making the things work. And the penalty for a job done well is a harder job. So, when the teachers, when we get to middle school, and they had the floppy disks with the grade book, and they were practicing unsafe, floppy sex, and the virus outbreak, all the machines in the school got infected. Guess who got to clean that up? Oh, and by the way, we expect you to finish all that, classwork that you're missing. Gee, thanks. But during all this time, learning these things, learning how these basic networks are working. The first, learn network. Yeah. Who cut their teeth on network in here? We got one. Don't you wish it stuck around more? Because you never had to reboot those suckers. Then Windows came along and screwed all that crap up. Didn't it? Trying some marketing over technology. A moment of silence, please, for network. Okay. Fast forward, we get to high school. We have more machines. We have an actual network. There's fiber. There's actual Ethernet. We have TCP/IP. We have connections to the outside world. They let me play. I get to play with some interesting tools. Do you know what happens when you do an ARP spoofing attack on a network with 300 machines on a 10 megabit connection? Horrible, horrible things. You know what happens when you do it on the day that grades are due? Even worse things. But strangely enough, I never really got in trouble for that because they weren't supposed to leave that open or leave default creds on any of the switches. They're like, tell what? No. There's nothing about that. So we continued this process of no one actually providing adult supervision and me just continuing to develop these skills. I get out of high school trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing. Go work for a mom and pop computer place. Write some software, fix some machines, build some networks. Get really, really bored. Go work somewhere else. A real job. There's people there. Like users. The L is silent, you see. Not sophisticated users. Users with problems and they touch their computers and they make them not work. We took away their computers. We gave them thin clients. Because after all, if they can't touch their computer to screw it up, that should fix it, right? No. Watched a sales weasel. And I use the term lovingly. Pour a cup of coffee into their thin client. Like, the computer's broken. Now you're in trouble. Here's a spare thin client. And you don't get coffee anymore.
Neither do we.
No one got coffee anymore. It was a bad thing. Clearly my social skills needed some developmental work. That whole carrot and the stick thing, I needed some tweaking on. That didn't work out so well. I ended up going out on my own and starting a consultancy and doing project work for the most part. I do a migration here, I do a network install there, we're taking machines and actually putting them on domains for the first time. And even though these were things that we do them over and over and over again, every time there'd be something new and different. And you'd think, I'd build SOPs around this, and I'd start hiring people to help do these SOPs. Every time, some little thing would be different, and I'd start freaking the hell out because this is going to be the one time it's going to blow up in my face. I'm going to lose everything, and nothing's going to work, and no one's going to trust me ever again, and just utter panic and pandemonium, and end of the universe, right? Typical. We've got our experiential biases, but it's all good. Keep going, keep going, keep going. We get there. Start noticing that we're doing more and more work with companies that have security requirements. Companies that are accountants and lawyers and medical practices, and this was pre-HIPAA. They're actually like asking questions about security, and I'm like, okay. I go, all right, I should probably start doing some studying on this security thing. And well, do you have any certifications? No. Why would I bother doing that? Okay, I'll get a certification. So what certification do I go and pick? CISSP. I'm like, okay, I'll go study. Bought a bunch of books. And took the test. And I'm dating myself here. I took the test on paper. It was proctored. If I had taken it long enough where I had to take a bathroom break, they would follow me to the frickin' bathroom. I passed it. I was 22. They had low standards set. I'm not sure I want to be a member of a club that would let me be a member. But, and how many folks in here have their CISSP? A couple. And, they say mile wide, inch deep. It's True. And for someone who's entirely self-taught, it feels like it's more than a mile wide and probably about 1.5 feet. It's how it feels. I don't work physical. At the time, I didn't work physical security. I don't know anything about fence height and any of that stuff. You know, it's something that never comes up. And I know that that's the point to force you outside of your comfort zone and to demonstrate some mastery over those things that aren't your thing. But that validation just flew past my head. And I know that there's a lot of derision about certs that don't have some kind of practical element to it. You know, there's the debate, the endless debate about the value of certifications versus hands-on experience. How do you prove actual worth of skill set in this industry, in security? Yeah, the cert route is one route, but you can theoretically cram for a cert unless that cert has some kind of hands-on practical set of elements to it. Does it have something that requires an actual doing something? Is there a lab, something like on the pen testing side of the universe where I live these days? Is it something like the OSCP, where you have to do a very, very in-depth, actually doing the things exercise, plus a test? Or is it something like the Red Gun at the CEH, where you can spend 15 minutes reviewing what they're calling things and then passing? There's a reason why I used the 15-minute example there. Hint, hint. So, the part of the thing with building up confidence in your abilities is there's this concept that in particularly computer science, where you're dealing with mathematical proofs of algorithms, where it's in a lot of algorithmic implementations, it's difficult to actually have a solid mathematical proof. The only way that you can prove out that an algorithm is functional is proof by repeated assertion. How many times do you have to demonstrate that you actually do get the thing before you begin believing that you get the thing? 5 times? 10 times? 100 times? 500 times? 1,000? 5,000? 10,000? You know, the common wisdom on how many hours on a subject does it take to develop mastery is what, 10,000 hours? I think that the number's probably about right. It varies from person to person. We're in this weird spot with our field, particularly because when I say InfoSec, okay, you could be a SOC analyst, you could do incident response, you could be a pen tester, you could do GRC. These are all radically different fields, but they're all under the InfoSec umbrella. If I airdrop a SOC person into a GRC engagement and I expect success, I'm the idiot. I'm the failure point for making that expectation. Okay? But you look at IR versus, say, static forensics, that's not much of there's significant overlap between the two areas. Okay? Control assessment versus pen testing. There's enough overlap that you can transition between those two areas. You know, there's complementary spots within this field. So I guess the point that I want to leave there is, you know, first off, you have to get comfortable within the scope of your skill set and your skin. the validation of your own successes is something very, very important for you to accept and internalize. And if people keep asking you to do things, it's not because they just are setting you up for continued failure. If you suck, they're not going to keep asking you to do things. They're going to find someone else to do them. If you feel that you're always on the edge of failure, it may be because you're not confident in your own skill set. Maybe you need a little bit more hands-on practice yourself to shore up your own internal assertions of your skill sets. But that external validation, particularly from your peers, the customers are important because they're the ones who cut the check. Okay, customers, the employers, they matter in there. But I mean, I'm sure that everyone in here has some trusted peers that they can look at and go, hey, am I doing okay? Where are my gaps? We do gap assessments all the time in InfoSec, looking at policies, looking at implementations, looking at controls. Can we turn that same analytic eye on our own performance? Because you can't look at your own shit. Let's be perfectly honest, accurately. You just can't. Not with anything resembling reality attached to it. You have to have that outside view, and it's, if we were going to pick a cognitive defect that's a mascot for our field, I probably would pick Impostor Syndrome as it, because we're untrusting of our own skill set as a whole, as an industry, to such an extent that it's actually a good thing because it keeps us from getting hubristic about it. We force ourselves to get those cross-checks for that. So I hope that this has provoked a little bit of introspection and some idea generation. And thank you for putting up with me prattling a bit. And hope you have a good rest of your con. So, thank you.